Molecules make you think of chemistry, right? Well, they're also very important in biology. In this video, we're going to look at carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. When I say lipids, I'm talking about fats and oils. Life processes depend on biological molecules, whose structure is related to their function. Did you know that living organisms are actually made from quite a small group of molecules? What do you think the most common molecule in you is? It's actually water. About 55 to 60% of an adult human's body weight comes from water. And in some organisms, this can be up to 90%. Your muscles and kidneys are particularly watery, at about 79%, but even your bones are made up of 31% water. Bet you didn't expect that. Okay, enough of water for now. Imagine we removed all the water in your body. What would be left? Well, it would pretty much be just proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids such as DNA. So what are these all made of? Well, carbohydrates and lipids are really simple. They just contain three elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Proteins are a little more complex, with 4 or 5 elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur. Let's start by looking at carbohydrates. There are 3 main types of carbohydrate: monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Simple sugars like glucose and fructose are monosaccharides. Sucrose, which is made up of 2 simple sugars joined together, is a disaccharide. And some carbohydrates are polymers that are made up of lots of sugars joined together, and so are called polysaccharides. Starch, glycogen, and cellulose are 3 important polysaccharides. Cellulose is found in plant walls, and starch is the storage unit for surplus glucose made in photosynthesis. Glycogen is the storage unit used by animals for surplus glucose, and is found in the liver and muscle tissues. Starch is tested for using an iodine solution. If the solution turns blue-black, then starch is present. Now on to proteins. Proteins are also polymers, but whereas in carbohydrates the monomer or repeating unit was glucose, for proteins it's amino acids. The protein then folds up into a complex 3D shape, which is held together by weak bonds. The function of each protein depends on its shape. Because enzymes are proteins and the bonds holding proteins together are weak, this is why enzymes denature above certain temperatures. The bonds are broken and the structure of the protein is changed. There are 20 different amino acids that make up proteins. The order of amino acids varies in different proteins, and so 20 different amino acids means an almost infinite number of different proteins can be made. It is estimated that there are about 50,000 different proteins in the human body alone. You will come across proteins nearly everywhere. For example, in cell membranes, where they control the movement of substances during active transport, as enzymes, so in photosynthesis, respiration, DNA copying, and digestion, as hormones, such as insulin, estrogen, and testosterone, and as antibodies for fighting infection. So that's proteins and carbohydrates. Let's end with lipids. Many lipids are triglycerides. These have a single glycerol molecule with 3 fatty acid tails attached. Different lipids contain different fatty acids. Triglycerides are a form of dietary fat found in meats, dairy, and cooking oils. The liver also makes triglycerides. They are used by cells and tissue for energy, or otherwise stored as fat. Some examples of lipids are steroid hormones, cholesterol, vitamin A, and vitamin D. So there you have it, the 3 key biological molecules that are essential to living processes: carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids.
In this video, we are going to learn about DNA, where it is found, and what it actually is, and what it is made of. All living things have DNA, or in the case of some viruses, they have RNA instead. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Let's start with where it is found. Most cells are eukaryotic. Animal cells, plant cells, and fungi, etc. Inside eukaryotic cells, you have a nucleus. Within most nuclei, there are X-shaped chromosomes. Chromosomes occur in pairs, but the number of chromosomes change depending upon the species. Humans have 23 pairs, elephants have 28 pairs, and carrots have 9 pairs. DNA is found within these chromosomes. Archaea and bacteria are prokaryotes, and because they do not have nuclei in their DNA, it is located in their cytoplasm. So what is DNA? It's a large, complex molecule that carries the genetic information that determines the characteristics of living things. And other than identical twins, we all have our own unique DNA. DNA contains lots and lots of sequences. Some sections of these sequences have a specific genetic code for making particular proteins. And these special sections are called genes. A gene is just a short section of DNA, and because each gene codes for a specific protein, it is in these genes that give us our individual characteristics, such as whether you have blue eyes or brown eyes. Proteins are the building blocks of life. And as our genes code for specific proteins, this is how DNA controls our body and helps us to survive, develop, and reproduce. But what is DNA made up of? DNA is made up of lots of molecules called nucleotides. DNA is a polymer because it is a large molecule composed of repeated subunits, the nucleotides. Each nucleotide contains a phosphate group, a sugar group, and a nitrogen base. When people think of DNA, they usually think of these bases. There are 4 bases: adenosine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. But just remember A, T, C, and G. And it is best to remember in this order: A, T, C, G. Because A and T bases pair up, and C and G bases pair up. The bases pair up forming hydrogen bonds, and the DNA forms a twisted shape that is known as a double helix. So there you have DNA. You should know that it is usually found in the chromosomes, within the nuclei of cells. It is a polymer, and it is made up of lots of nucleotides that contain bases. There are 4 bases: A, T, C, and G, and the bases pair up as AT and C. Nucleic acids are the building blocks of life. Wait, but isn't DNA the building blocks of life? Yes, both are correct. DNA is a type of nucleic acid, and in this video we are going to have a quick look at another type, RNA. We have both DNA and RNA in our bodies. We need them both. DNA is the blueprint. It contains all of the instructions for the cell to grow, function, and replicate. The RNA carries out these instructions. It copies and transfers the genetic code from the DNA to ensure the relevant proteins are made. So just think of it as DNA makes RNA makes proteins. So let's look at how they differ. Whereas DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, RNA stands for ribonucleic acid. Whilst DNA is double-stranded, RNA is single-stranded. Like DNA, RNA is made up of a long chain of nucleotides. Each nucleotide consists of a ribose sugar, phosphate group, and nucleotide base. RNA has a sugar called ribose, whereas DNA has a sugar called deoxyribose. Look here, RNA has a base, uracil or U, whereas DNA has the base thymine or T. So in RNA, C and G still pair, but now A and U pair. We need to know about RNA because we will see it when learning about protein synthesis. We will see these 2 special types of RNA, messenger RNA, which is known as mRNA, and transfer RNA, which is known as tRNA. We will see the mRNA being synthesized inside the nucleus, copied from the DNA code. The tRNA is found in the cytoplasm. For many years, we just thought RNA was a DNA photocopier, as mRNA, the protein builder, as tRNA, and found in ribosomes as rRNA. However, RNA can also act as enzymes to speed up chemical reactions, and in many viruses, they have RNA instead of DNA. The RNA carries the genetic codes in those viruses. So there we have RNA. From this video, you should now know about the existence of RNA. It is a single-stranded nucleic acid that has a base U instead of a base T.